Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first a quick word from my sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, Kiender.co.uk. Kiender stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to Kiender and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
So on today's Quick Draw episode, we're taking a look at Ra. And this is going back to this whole, I'm trying to play the classics. You know, the classics that I've missed out on, trying to get these to the table and see whether the cult of the old can still measure up to the cult of the new. Which, to be fair, a lot of them still can. I've played a few older games lately and I'm like, yeah, these still hold up over time. This is going back quite a bit though. This is 1999 when this first came out. This is the new 25th Century Revised Edition, Ian O'Toole's artwork and all the, the extra wood, and believe me, we'll get into that in a minute. But, this one is now a new refurbished copy, and thanks to Kiender for the review copy, this one is enabling me to, finally test out if this is any good. Now, auction games are not my favorite genre. I will stipulate this. I like quick bidding auction games, so Biblios and High Society and stuff like that. I enjoy those auction games. Stuff like Power Grid, though, I'd like to see burn in the 7th layer of hell.
Wow, that was pretty brutal even by my standards. No backsies.
It can go to drawn out auctions and be really dull, boring, and those ones I don't like. I like quick, snappy auctions, and this one at least has those, but is that enough? I mean, it's just a straight up auction game. Is there enough in this game to keep me entertained and to keep others entertained? Well, let's find out. So Ra, as I mentioned, a straight up auction game, and yes, we'll get on to the components eventually. Yeah, just a big giant bag here. But essentially what happens is you have an auction board, so auction board in the middle, and what you do is that you take it in turns to draw tiles out of this bag, and there's a ton of these tiles. Loads of different types, loads of different effects, but you're essentially drawing them out and you're placing them below this board to represent kind of like what people are gunning for. Now, voluntarily, people can ask to invoke Ra, which means that they start an auction for what tiles are there. Or you might draw a red tile out of here that does it automatically. How you bid, though, is with these Sun Disk tokens. So these Sun Disk tokens have got different values from 1 to 13, and the idea is that you only have 3 on your board, well, 3 or 4, depending on the player count, on your board in a round, and so what you do is that you effectively bid with these. So they're fixed value, and you can see what everybody else has, so you know that there's a chance that other people might outbid you, but it's like, will they, won't they, for what's out there? But in addition, one of these discs will be on the board itself. So when you have made your bid, for example, let's say I win this auction with a 5, I exchange that with the disc that's there and put this face down on my board. I won't be able to use it until next round, but now I've got a 12 when I gave up a 5. So that's like a 7 boost in currency, effectively. There's a little timer for this marker where if you draw red tiles out of the bag, this moves along and could end the round prematurely, but otherwise it's when people have used up all their Sun Discs. Once that's all said and done, you essentially have 3 rounds of scoring where the tiles go on each side of this Ra board, and depending what tile it is, it scores in different ways. So gold is straight up points. Gold tiles, which you can spend to take things on the auction trail, are 2 points each. Water is a point each, providing you get a flood tile to go with it. Civilization tiles, you need different ones, but if you don't get any, you lose 5 points. Pharaoh tiles, whoever has the most, whoever has the least. Monuments, get sets, diversity, or get more of the same. There's various stuff like that you've seen in every other game. And at the very end, there's also a kind of like a Sushi Go dessert menu type thing, where you add up all your remaining Sun Discs, and whoever has the highest gets points, whoever has the lowest loses points. I like that mechanic. It's quite cool because it gives you a reason to care about these in the final round when otherwise you wouldn't. So that's kind of like a general gist of the game. There's not a huge amount to it. You total up the victory points at the end and see who wins. So why don't we first talk about the component side, because yeah, holy friggin' God. Holy God of Ra. This is an insane production here. I mean, the board's already, chunky and good quality. These Sun Discs are thick wood. I mean, I'm only holding 6 of them there, and you can see how much space they take up in between my 2 fingers here. These are chunky, easy to read, easy clear. I love these. These are a good thing to have as the currency. But if you thought that was ridiculous, oh my god. I mean, this sun marker is already pretty thick in terms of its wood component, right? What the hell is this? This is ridiculous. This is the Ra statue. It's thicker than my... It's not too far off being thicker than my own arm. It's kind of ridiculous.
Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
This is a massive... giant piece, well oversized. I've never seen so much wood on a component before. It's insane. And yes, when you play this game, the amount of wood jokes that are going to come through when grabbing this piece and say, grab me the piece of wood away. I mean, trust me, they're going to happen. You know, depending on how immature your group is, wood jokes are going to come aplenty here. But then, oh my god, this giant bag. This is stuffed with tiles. So that's a small selection of what's in there. There's a ton more where that came from. And these are all thick, chunky. They've got, you know, standard artwork on them. And oh my god, this reduction is insane. Now, there is a downside to this. It doesn't fit in the box very easily. You've got to really be good at the Tetrising to get it in there. You got to get your boards in a particular line. You got to stack your pieces next to each other, the wood pieces next to each other, fold up the board. And then the annoying thing is that with this bag, you have to put all the tiles back in the bag, and then you have to kind of lay it out on top, leave it open, so occasionally a few slip out, but then while doing that, you have to kind of flatten it on top so that the lid just goes on. It's not easy, it's not always foolproof, and it's just annoying that they couldn't have just made the box a tiny bit taller to accommodate the bag easier. Or maybe just scaled down the production slightly so it wouldn't have this problem. The rules are very simple to learn as well. I mean, you literally only have this very thin, linen finished rule book, which doesn't have a lot of pages in it. It's got pictorial examples as well as a bit of text, but then it's also got a very good quick reference on the back. This is a good little flowchart to say the 3 actions you can do and which route you go down depending whether the auction track is full or whether you drew a red tile or invoked Ra yourself. It's very easy to literally remember all the rules of this game pretty much by that. Yeah, really straightforward. But then you obviously need to know how all the tiles score. Great, just go to this double page spread and you'll find them. Failing that, read your board, because as much as I don't go goo goo gaga every time Ian O'Toole puts his artwork on stuff, because Ian O'Toole's artwork is, I love his functionality of his designs. He's fantastic at graphic design. He makes things clear as day to read, does a great job with the Vital Lacerdas. I don't look at games that he illustrates though and call them beautiful though. He's not about art and beauty. He's about function and design, and for that, this works. This board tells you everything you need to know about how the things score, and it's really easy to read. It tells you everything you could possibly know. No FAQ moment should come from this, other than possibly what happens with tiebreakers. But other than that, clear as day. The rules to this are not complicated. It is an easy game. Great. And it goes from 2 to 5. Was it 2 to 5 or is it 3? But yeah, 2 to 5 players. Although honestly, this isn't a game I would want to play with 2. And even with 3, I'm a little bit hesitant. 4 or 5 seems to be a better way of doing this, because with 2 or 3, not enough tiles really come out of the bag. They come out and you'll get a few auctions, but because there's a lot of these red tiles in here, in fact I dare say there's probably too many of these red tiles in here that trigger the auctions, I find that with 2 players there's just not enough really going on overall. 3 players is not too bad, but again I feel like more tiles should come out. 4 and 5 seems to fix that problem, and the game will scale for player count, so you will have, I think, 3 discs if you're using like too many players, and 4 discs if you've got less, maybe even 5 with 2, is it 5 with 2? Let me check. No, 4, 4, 3, 3. So yeah, it does go down as you scale up the players, but I find this one's a bit more entertaining with more players, but it does scale reasonably well. I don't think it's broken at any particular player count, but having more players, especially with the auctions, I think is a bit more interesting. There are some gameplay elements though that do get a little bit annoying quite quickly though. I mean, the tiles drawn out, great. But drawing out a red tile and starting out an auction is not fun if you're the player who keeps drawing them. I've had players where they've drawn 3 times in a row, they've drawn these out, and it's not fun for them to basically not contribute to the auction track and just simply start off an auction where there's only 1 or 2 pieces out there. They feel like they're not doing anything constructive in the game, and it has diminished the enjoyment for some people, I've noticed, in games because they just draw these red tiles all the time. But the other thing that's annoying is that as much as this bag is great, you've got to pass this to players before they take their turn. So I go, right, I'll draw a tile, there it goes, pass the bag, they do it, pass the bag, they do it, pass the bag, they do it. Well, this gets very annoying, having to pass this bag around constantly. It's like, hang on, you take it, right, draw a card.
You have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
Now you could just say, let somebody do it for you, fine. And honestly, that might be the best way to do it, but the problem is, this also dictates whose turn it is. If you have one person holding the bag, you don't have a way to track turn order and you quickly forget whose turn it is. This just gets really annoying playing this pass the bomb thing around everyone constantly, bearing in mind that these turns are fast. The auctions don't take long to resolve, which is great. But your turn is either draw a tile, invoke an auction, or use a god tile. Most people won't even have a god tile, so that's out. You're not always going to be triggering an auction, so that's only part of your turn. So really, mainly you're drawing tiles out of the bag, and it's just constant passing around of this wretched bag, and that gets really annoying really fast. It's one of those irks during a game, especially like if you're getting near to the end of the auction. It's like, oh, will you just draw something? Oh, you drawn another red one, right? Okay, let's do this one. It's like, I just wish there was an easier way to dispense the tiles, but there's a lot of them. I don't quite see how you would do it.
Just accept it.
The gameplay itself, though, is good fun. I particularly like the way that the Sun Disk currency is used, because you can see what numbers you have compared to others. There's an incentive to go on an auction just to get a higher disc for the next round, and especially at the end of the game where you get those point scorings. But it's also not so much, oh, I have more money than you, I'll outbid you. It's more, I'm going to go in with a low disc, because if you want these tiles, you're going to have to go in with a much higher disc than me, and you might not want to use that higher disc. So maybe I can goad you by just putting in a 4 in front of me. Are you really going to put in a 9 for, for this sort of tiles? Are you really going to outbid by 4? And it's not just simply auction and bidding. There's also an element, not so much of bluffing, but kind of goading. A bit like what I said in District Noir, where you're trying to goad your opponent to draw the cards earlier than they should. You're almost trying to goad players into not going against you, or maybe going against you. You might be like, well, if I win it, I'm not too fussed, but if I can get you to use your big tile before we get to an auction that I really, really want, that's another cool thing. That's a neat little system. I do like the way this works. I like the fact you can see the one in the middle that you're going to get, so you know if you're giving up a 13 or 14. I guess they go a bit higher than 13, but 16 even. I guess you need to play with certain player counts. I forget, but giving up a 16 for a 5. That's going to hurt. I mean, you're going to really want those tiles, because you know that, yes, I could win all these, but that's my 16 for a 5. That hurts. Oh, that hurts. And it's just another one of those cool little decisions that you make. Now, the game is pretty heavy on the randomness factor, because you are just drawing tiles out of a bag. You may draw the tiles you really want. You may draw tiles that you don't want. The timing of the red tiles might happen. I mean, this is you don't necessarily know when the round's going to end, but sometimes the thing barely moves and then it goes at rocket speed when you least expect it. So you definitely have to go into this knowing that this is a light, random game where you have some interesting decisions to make, but you're not really in full control of the situation. It's a case of, right, what am I stuck with? What's the deal? React to that. And I do like tactical games where they do that, like Tribes of the Wind and things, where you can't strategize until the end. You have to think, well, what's here now? Live in the moment, the now, the present. What do I want to do with the things I've got? And so that works pretty well. So Ra itself is a neat game, but it's not one that I would want to play like over and over again. It does the job and it gives me an interesting dynamic, but the tile variety is a little lacking. I mean, as much as there's like 6 different ways that you can score on this board, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actually technically in the end game, they are quite similar. There's not a huge amount of variety in the tiles, and it is mainly just set collection at the end of the day. The player scaling mainly is better with more players than it is less. I don't see this being a 2-player game, 3-player maybe, but 4 and 5 seems to be the way to go, which is fair enough. You don't get many 5-player games at work. But drawing these red tiles does irk a few people. Like, they don't feel like they're contributing by drawing these. These almost feel like a wasted turn when this happens. But there is a lot of good stuff to say. The component quality and, you know, graphic design is excellent. Cannot fault that. I do love the way that these sun discs work as the currency. I think this is an ingenious way of doing, you know, auction currency by not having to have loads of money and have people going, well, hang on, if he bids 24 and then I could go 3 higher, maybe 27 or 28, I don't know. That draws out auctions. These at least are quick and snappy and, you know, pretty neat. I think it's probably maybe a product of its time. It does feel like a 1999 game. I feel like if this was redesigned now with like a second edition with new revamped rules, there would be a few tweaks to this to maybe curb some of that randomness, or maybe just add a little bit more like variety and interesting tiles. Like maybe you could take out one set of tiles and replace with a different lot, although I would hate to go through that bag and try and sort them out, that's for certain. So, Ra overall gets a 7 out of 10 for me. It's a good game and I do recommend it, particularly if you're an auction fan. Although people are saying that this is like one of the best auction games in existence, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a good auction game here, but best ever? I'm not quite going to that level. You know, it's decent, it's fun, there's a few things that get annoying over time, whether it's passing the bag or, you know, the drawing of tiles or having turns that feel like a waste. And I'd probably rather just play some of the more quicker, snappier auction games anyway. I mean, this is a Reiner Knizia game and auctions tend to be his thing. I'd rather play High Society over this. It's quicker, it's snappier, and it has that elimination mechanic at the end. High Society, I think, beats out Ra. Biblios, quick bidding with the 2-phase cycle of the game. I'd rather play Biblios than this one. So this one is still a neat auction game and probably one of the better ones I've played, but not quite top tier, you know, not quite top level 10 out of 10 best auction game ever that some people are saying. And honestly, as much as this has come out, I haven't seen anybody really buy it and play it. I'm the only person that I know in any of the groups I've got locally who has this, and I've played it with multiple different people, and the reaction I tend to get is either, that's cool, or that's a game. Nobody is really saying, this is amazing, I love it, I really want my own copy. And that's gotta speak some volumes, but maybe this is the auction game for you. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube, but thumb it up on Board Game Geek as well when I put the video on the page. Obviously, let you know your comments down below. Is this a game that you've had since 1999? Do you love it? Is it your favorite auction game? Why is it? What is it about this game that makes it the top tier for you? Let me know your thoughts. Obviously, check out all the other content I've been doing, the smorgasbord of reviews that I've been doing. There's loads of them, but we will get back to top 10s very soon. Until next time, remember, regardless of how chunky you want your pieces to be, there's still only a game, but man, that is a lot of wood. See you next time.